Big fluff.
You're pretty good. What's your name? Ray. Yeah, you're a good negotiator. Because you didn't even lowball me.
I'm gonna come in here and lowball you? Forget about that.
Well, because the thing is, I gotta trust you. There's the payment of the money, and then there's your friends keeping their mouths shut,
No, hold on. We're businessmen, both of us. We have an understanding.
Oh. Let me tell you something, Ray. You don't understand shit, okay? Nothing. Guys like you gotta keep checking your pants to see if you got a dick. I got one. You and your friends are the kind of spoon-fed fucking fruit bait that I fucking hate!
I don't think he understood me.
Shut the fuck up! You speak when fucking spoken to, okay? This is not fucking high school, motherfucker. I'll eat your fucking friends for fucking lunch. You know who we are? No, you have no fucking idea, do you? No, chicks like you just sail through life reading about people like me in the newspaper. Hey! You're in a different place now, motherfucker. Yeah, $100,000 might buy you out in North Shore. Down here, pussy, that means shit. This is my fucking world.
Hey everybody, I'm Joel Murphy.
And I'm Andy McIntyre.
And this is Silver Linings Playback, the podcast where we watch maligned movies and we find their silver linings.
And it's May, and you know what that means. It's Revenge of the Guest month. And perhaps no episode has been more foreshadowed than having our good friend Anthony Leonelli back to talk about Judgment Night. What's up, Anthony?
How we doing, fellas? I could not be more excited.
Yeah, I don't think this counts as revenge in any way. In that both you and I have been ridiculously excited to do this. So
all three of us.
Yeah. I don't know who's being punished here. So like, I
mean, the world at large, basically.
Having to deal with three middle-aged men waxing intellectual about Judgment Night for about 45 minutes.
Look, we're now at the point, it's a weird thing watching this movie where all we need is one more person in an RV and we are this movie. So that's...
We just need our Cuba.
Yeah. It is all... Oh no. Which also now means who are we all then?
I mean, I'll just be Stephen Dorff. I'll take it.
Well, I'm not being Piven, so sorry.
You want to be Cuba and we'll find our Stephen Dorff, or we'll find our Jeremy, or, there's no right answer.
Yeah. I think, there's identifiable pieces of them in all of us, which makes it such an identifiable tale.
I would love that Breakfast Club ending of like, all of us are an Emilio and a Cuba and a Dorff. And a Piven.
And what's left of Piven.
Oh, this is such, first of all, that entire cast is such a 1993 time capsule that
this is the 93st cast of male actors I think you could put together.
But I also just love that this is like the perfect Piven of, he hadn't done Entourage yet. So he really just was like this kind of scumbag in movies, it wasn't
that
lovable.
Fat talking shyster guy. This is like a little bit before PCU, I think.
Yeah, PCU where he actually got to be the cool lead, but like no, this is like kind of what he's gonna do in Entourage, but people liked him in that, and you do not like him in this movie,
right? And this is before Gross Point Blank, right? This is just before.
Yeah, it is before Gross Point Blank. Yeah.
It's also, I don't know if you guys saw this, but when I was reading stuff about this movie today. Apparently, this was a silver lining for Emilio Estevez was his timing, in that they were in pre-production on this movie. They really needed a lead, and everyone else they tried to get fell through. So he got a $4 million payday to star in this because that was cheaper than just shelving the whole thing. Like,
and honestly, he earned every penny. Yeah,
no, I'm legit happy for him, but it's interesting when you read it. And apparently, like at one point they were trying to get, it was John Travolta as the lead and Kevin Spacey as the villain.
It's a wildly different movie with that cast.
All of that is weird.
I just want to say about Emilio that I think it's impressive that he was able to play a straight-laced guy that had an asshole brother who just kept getting into trouble due to bad choices. Like, I don't know where he pulled from. I don't know that he had experience or like emotional memory that he could call up. But I was just, like just a big stretch for Emilio.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I don't know anything about his family. Does he have siblings? Who are his parents? I couldn't tell you.
The Estevez, man. That's the Estevez clan.
Ramon Estevez.
Yeah, it's also like it's the perfect Piven role and the perfect Denis Leary role and probably the perfect Emilio Estevez role. It's a strange Stephen Dorff role, I feel like, in that he's set up to be what feels like a Stephen Dorff character and then is ultimately kind of just a scared marshmallow, which is an interesting turn.
I feel like that's kind of what Dorff was doing at the time. Like that was pre-Blade. It was he was kind of that.
So I was going to ask you guys, because what is your reference point for Stephen Dorff? Like you think Stephen Dorff, what
I mean, now it is
comes
Blade.
to mind?
Blade 100%.
Now,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, for me, it's The Power of One, which we were forced to watch in history class in like 10th grade. So I always picture him in, apartheid rampant South Africa as a boarding school student, which is a strange thing to think of when you think of Stephen Dorff. But I feel like we watched it more than 1 year in school. Morgan Freeman shows up in it. This isn't a Power of One podcast, but we'll see next year.
Maybe next year.
But it's so, yeah, Stephen Dorff just seemed like bizarre casting there. But I mean, again, and Cuba is pre-Jerry Maguire, right?
Yeah, he's got to be this. Yeah, because I think Maguire was like later 90s.
It's post Boys in the Hood, though.
Right. It's post Boys in the Hood, and it's post doing literally nothing in A Few Good Men. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, it's funny. I love A Few Good Men, and I know that he's in it, and he just like is on the stand for 5 minutes, right? Like I don't.
Yeah, he's just in the movie.
Yeah,
yeah, he's just there. Yeah, he's like, Bodison took my role. I'm not happy.
It is. How did you guys feel about Cuba Gooding Jr. in this movie? Like, I wasn't quite sure what to make of him this watch through.
Is he the loose cannon friend? Is he like the too deep loose cannon friend? I don't really understand why he does anything he does.
Right, because he seems pretty grounded in the beginning. It's like a weird thing happens where it feels like they're setting Dorff up to be the loose cannon and him to be the reasonable sidekick friend. And then they just switch arbitrarily in the final third of the movie with not really a lot of justification.
Also, you got to always be wary of a grown adult wearing a Letterman jacket. Just as a general rule, not a guy to put a ton of trust into, I feel like.
Yeah, nothing screams peaked in high school like rocking a Letterman at 38 years old.
And again, how old are these guys supposed to be? Because I couldn't figure that out either. I know Dorff is younger. But like Emilio's got the young family. Piven could be any age from 25 to 50. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, 90s Piven is ageless because no one questioned that he was a super duper senior in PCU or, a 10-year high school reunion guy in Grosse Pointe Blank or Emilio Estevez's dad, I think, in this movie. I'm not sure.
Or a Black Hawk helicopter pilot in the Battle of Mogadishu.
Right.
Because don't forget, Jeremy Piven is inexplicably in Black Hawk Down.
Sure. Yeah, because if I remember correctly, he convinced the Black Hawk dealer that he was going to buy a fleet of them and got control of one for the weekend and then immediately crashed it.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. But yeah, it does feel like, I mean, if you take a step back, if you don't look at the actors, they feel like they've got to be maybe like early 30s of like a point where they're not that far from their 20s, but they're supposed to be suburban grown-ups, but they're still clinging to some sort of party lifestyle. And he's the first one to grow up. So I guess I'd guess like 30 is what we're supposed to think.
Yeah.
I think they're shooting for like, at the like maybe Stephen Dorff is like 25, right? And everybody else is like 31, 32. Seems about right to me.
Yeah, I think that sounds correct to me. And yeah, I guess we haven't set up the story. Not that it takes that long. Essentially, the very quick version is the good guy family man Emilio Estevez just can't stand his wife and child for another day. So he has made a boys' night.
I've been cooped up for 3 months.
Yeah, it's 3 months. But he's made a plan with his friends to go see a boxing match in the city. And then Jeremy Piven cons a dealership to get an RV and then they don't want to wait in traffic, so they drive through the bad part of town. And as happens, they accidentally
They hit Michael DiLorenzo.
Yeah, who had just been
As
shot. Who had just
Which
been
happens.
shot
By
Denis Leary. And so then that leads to their judgment night, where they must evade a criminal kingpin who...
played by Denis Leary.
Who, has... They're witnesses to his executing.
And his gang featuring Peter Green and Everlast.
Yes. Peter Green, unfortunately, not playing his part from The Big Lebowski, but still strong.
But Everlast still playing Everlast, because we get a tight close up of his hand and can see a shamrock ring. Yeah,
shamrocks and shenanigans.
Yeah. He all but says boom, shalock, lock, boom every time he opens his mouth in this movie.
Does he have lines? I don't even remember him talk. He must talk, but I don't remember any line of dialogue that he says.
Something about packing it up and packing it in.
Yeah.
How he needed to begin, something like that.
Well, now that we're thinking about it, there's the one scene where he's trying to talk Denis Leary down, and he says that he should walk a mile in their shoes, and then he really might know what it's like to be a suburban dad,
And, some people will rob their mother for the ends, at the end of the day.
Yeah. He talks about how he kicks the flavor like Stephen King writes horror. And if he was a Jew, he'd light a menorah.
It's one of the better opening lines of that record. Now, I have a question for you guys, as men of a certain age that have probably traveled into the city to see a sporting event, which we've all done. Where would one park an RV when they get to the arena?
Well, especially because it's a surprise.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's that's a good point, that this was sprung on them. So there's no chance that they've thought it through.
No. I mean, I feel like that would be a difficult thing to park down at Chicago Stadium.
I was gonna say, if this is at the United Center where the Bulls play, which was probably where it was, whatever it's called now, there's no parking.
Right.
Like Soldier Field has parking, but this boxing match is not happening at Soldier Field.
No, and it seems like an unnecessary. Like, I get the fun gag of showing up in the RV, but it seems like way more trouble than it's worth.
And that RV was 100% the Bang Bus, right? Like, that was used for pornography.
Probably.
I like that it had a Super Nintendo in it. That was exciting.
A regular Nintendo.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yes, a regular Nintendo.
The regular NES.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Piven's pistol for some reason.
Yes. Yeah. Also, Jeremy Piven, I think we've kind of set it up, but he is a scumbag at every turn in this movie. He secretly has a pistol. He's the reason that they end up in the bad part of town, because he doesn't want to wait in traffic after he's already had a road rage incident. Like that he and Steven Dorff cause.
Where we kind of set up Dorff as the hothead, but then again, they tag in and tag out.
Right.
Yeah, then he immediately marshmallows. He gets nerfed the rest of the movie.
Well, and because Cuba does kind of step in to also fight the guy. So I guess we are showing that we have two dueling hotheads, potentially. But then he goes through the bad part of town. As soon as he thinks that he hit someone, he's already ready to just leave the person to die without checking on the body. He fake calls 911.
Just says, no service in this town. Yeah,
just at every turn, he makes the most evil coward decision, and then he dies.
Yes, memorably.
By getting pushed off a roof.
And I mean, by Denis Leary, who I think is 5'7", but that's neither here nor there.
Jeremy Piven's 5'4", so that kind of tracks.
It does track. That's true.
Okay, since you brought it up, is anyone in this movie an actual convincing tough guy? I think is a question we need to ask.
No, I don't believe so. Maybe Green.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah, he is I feel like Green would shoot you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has that gravitas.
Didn't Everlast get arrested for some violent stuff at some point?
I'd put him at 2.
I don't know.
I think Green won Everlast 2 in terms of convincing.
I'm gonna agree with both of those.
And I will say, I mean, I like Leary as a 90s villain. I think that was a good gear for him to just be. And it's also, I think you could read this movie that he's been propped up by the two guys that we are saying are actual heavies, and that maybe he hasn't really had to do a lot, which is why he gets like he can't really go toe to toe with an Emilio Estevez that is not established to have any skills at fighting or any reason to be tough. So maybe he's supposed to not be that like badass.
And he also, when being a kingpin, crime lord of whatever style he appears to be, drowning your henchmen is generally not sound practice.
No, and especially in front of the other henchmen. That's not really going to pay off well.
I feel like there's going to be an HR complaint like the next day of like, look, man, we'll do the thing and we'll do whatever, but we can't be having, drownings on shift. Like they can't be. There are real problems there.
He's got a meeting with HR on Monday.
For sure.
Even though he died.
Yeah. And also, like, I also love that they were trying to package like Denis Leary, serious actor at this time. Like that was a thing that was happening.
How far removed is this? Yeah, I was going to say, how far removed is it from the Cindy walking, Cindy talking, Cindy on top of the Empire State Building with a box of Eskimo pies? Now that's entertainment, Denis Leary.
Pretty close, right? I mean, it's all it's definitely right around. Lou Gehrig died of Lou Gehrig's disease. How did he not see that coming, Denis Leary? Which is a great joke. Yeah, admittedly.
No, but I like Denis Leary. I will like.
There was a time he was very important in my life, like for sure.
Yeah,
like cassette tape on the school bus.
Oh yeah, like I went further in the show Rescue Me than any human being should have, for sure.
Yeah. Apropos of nothing, but I went about as far as Susan Sarandon being a guest star on Rescue Me inexplicably.
I know. Also,
you have an Oscar, man.
Well, also because when are we ever going to get another chance to talk about Rescue Me? I do have to bring up the funniest thing to me about that show, which is that it's a world where he works side by side with Franco, and yet Denis Leary gets all of the women somehow, like inexplicably, week after week. Gina Gershon is just like, well, out of this firehouse, I think Denis Leary.
Noted New Yorker, Denis Leary.
I just like that guy Franco. I don't even think he needs to be a firefighter. I think he just walks down the street, like he's, having women approach him every 5 minutes. But you add firefighter to that. And everyone else in that firehouse is invisible.
Especially Denis Leary. Especially middle-aged, cranky, post-9/11 Denis Leary.
Well, and that's the other thing is he's terrible. Like, so not only is he Denis Leary and looks like Denis Leary, but he's miserable to be around.
Which is most Denis Leary characters.
Yes.
Yes. Cranky and cantankerous was his wheelhouse.
I believe this is the same year he was the stepdad in The Sandlot.
Ooh, yeah. That sounds right.
Where he toned it down a little, but was still kind of a douche.
But because doesn't he? There were takes where he went off on Scotty Smalls.
Scotty, listen here, motherfucker. No one's gonna buy anything from somebody wearing a fish hat. Get out of my face.
But yeah, because he has like a sweet, like there's he plays catch with them at the end, right? Like,
they come around. They become buddies.
Yeah.
Real quick, he got him the murderer's row ball after he ruined the Babe Ruth original side.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. He has every reason to hate that kid.
So real quick aside, I watched that movie with my son when he was like 7 and he loved it. Of course, right age, whatever. But at the end he said, Dad, why didn't they just use the other ball? And I said, well, Ben, it was the 60s. Like they only had a baseball maybe among them. He said, no, they had another ball. He played catch with his dad earlier and got hit in the eye. Why didn't he use that ball? And I was like, you've ruined The Sandlot, son.
No, he had an aversion to that one because he didn't want to he had been hit in the eye with it. So
right.
Well, that's why he couldn't see it, because he'd been hit in the eye with it. So
you just needed one ADR off-camera line of, "Oh, the ball went in the sewer."
That's pretty good though. I'm like your son. Yeah. That's a good catch.
I was impressed.
Yeah, I've certainly saw that movie many times.
That had never occurred to me. Like, oh wait, he does have a ball.
Me either. One of the things I read about this movie, which my own reference to ADR, they had to ADR in more, quote, funny lines because the movie was too dark. And oh boy, did they succeed.
Which, yeah, I mean, that's
like where did they do this?
I guess there is some banter, I suppose, but like, yeah, that's something that we should talk about too. That when the stuff I was reading about this was that apparently this was a spec script that went around Hollywood and people really liked. And so, of course, it was bought and they immediately rewrote it so many times that the original writer's name did not appear on the screenplay because it was so radically different from what he wrote. And at one point, apparently John Carpenter even did a pass on this, but like, yeah, it's apparently utterly unrecognizable from the what people say was a good spec script that was apparently much darker than even this
the
version.
John Carpenter script was Denis Leary a vampire?
I think they were
Only
assaulting a precinct in that one. If I
Only Stephen Dorff could tell he was an alien, and no one would listen to him.
Yeah, they just go to a boxing match and then they end up by a campfire, not trusting each other by the end, for sure.
And then they escape from New York.
Mm-hmm. And
I'd like to read the original Good Judgment Night script.
Yeah,
I'd like to know what that looks like.
Yeah, and because this is so unreal. Because what I read said that not like a single thing that he wrote ended up in the final, like not a line of dialogue, nothing. Like if you put
Perfect,
yeah,
and that's wild because this is like the most paint by numbers, straight ahead action movie that could exist in 1993.
Right,
like it's nothing surprising happens. Everything goes exactly the way you thought it would. Like I was shocked when
Poor people are scary.
Yeah. When they spent like 12 seconds showing Denis Leary's eyes open corpse at the end, that he didn't do a jump scare. I was amazed that he didn't do a jump scare.
Well, it's weird that they do a jump scare, but then they immediately let you off the hook of a gun is pointed to the back of his head, but actually it's the cops and actually they believe him and everything's fine and the movie's over.
Yes, the Chicago PD, famous for their restraint.
The Chicago PD, famous for asking questions when a gun is pointed at someone and like definitely not going to just fire at that point. But yeah, so when we get to the silver linings, I for sure am going to talk about the rooftop scene, which I love. But a thing that I didn't realize when I was a kid that I definitely saw now that I'm wondering if you two saw as well is like that scene is just Ellis and Die Hard, right? Like that's just
1,000%.
And then the end is just the end of Die Hard, right? Where like Han is hanging from a window and like he's got to make him fall, but not fall. Like I never saw the parallels as a kid because why would I? But now it's like, oh, those are just Die Hard scenes. We're just doing,
From 88 to like 95 was the era of Die Hard on a, it was Die Hard on a boat, Die Hard on a city bus, Die Hard in the projects. Like it's just, this is basically one more.
I think most of them were directed by Peter Hopkins.
I wish Tommy Lee Jones had been the Denis Leary role, but nonetheless, big Under Siege guy. If we're talking about Die Hard on a, but no, it's you're absolutely right. It's like it's just here's the situation, and it's paint by numbers, and it's my channel when I have my own cable channel that I can program is Monday, Wednesday, Friday will be Die Hard on a movies, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday will be Rocky movies of various. On a ski slope and a karate ring, 8 Mile. And then, Sunday, I don't know, weird documentaries.
I'm in.
I would watch it. Yeah, I would be on that channel more. And also it's a good time for it because we're slowly just streaming is finally coming around to being cable again. So yeah, pitch that now.
I'm telling you, Die Hard on a, Rocky on a, and a wild card.
I did just see
Sundays.
I love the Criterion channel, which we watch a lot, but they've just added a feature that's just, it's a now like a random thing where we're always playing a movie on the Criterion channel and you can just click it and it'll play whatever movie we happen to be showing it. And I'm like, that's just a cable channel.
That's called cable. That's called how we all grew up. Hence how I saw Judgment Night a lot on USA in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely one of those movies that I don't know how many times I saw the beginning because it was whatever part it's on, you just watch movie.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw this movie in order.
No, yeah, maybe once in my life, maybe.
Yeah, because I was definitely having the opening scene. I was like, I do not remember this at all.
What are they doing in the suburbs? Like, how is the scene? Did it not start with them hitting Michael DiLorenzo?
Also, how big of a flex is our guy Hopkins doing with his 2-minute tracking opening shot of suburbia that establishes nothing that's going to have anything to do with the movie at all. He's just flexing.
Yeah.
He's like, I paid for this dolly and we're damn well going to use it. So
I got a helicopter for one shot and it's this one.
Give me those kids on bikes. Like what are we doing?
I also,
as much as I enjoy the De La Soul, but still,
I didn't realize how big of a fan he was of the shot. And for the video, I'll recreate it where you get a face here, like just staring straight, and then over the shoulder, something's happening. I think we got like 6 of those in this movie.
The entire third act.
Yeah.
It's just shot that way. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm putting cards on the table, I love this movie. This movie's great. I'm so happy we're talking about it. But watching it now as an adult, and I had not seen it in a long time, the third act's not very good. I think I'm just willing to say that I think there's 2/3 of a movie that I like, which is 4 guys from the suburbs have to try to survive a situation they're not equipped for. And then the third act is Emilio Estevez action star. And that is not as good of a movie. There's no reason that he should have been able to hang with Everlast, Peter Green, and Denis Leary the way he did at the end.
Also, it's too much in one place. Once they get to the flea market, like give me more of these suburban guys as the warriors trying to get home.
Yeah,
walking in and out of things.
I want more of them climbing ladders across alleys.
Yeah, find another ladder. Find another family to terrorize and demand to use their phone. I
want that to just happen at 4 different buildings, and each time another guy dies. Until it's just Emilio.
It's just Emilio, and it's I would watch that for sure. Like, also, I love no, you've got to help us. Let's appeal to you, and then they ruin everyone's lives immediately. Like, it's terrible, and you should not help them.
No, do not. The moral of the story is, if you live in public housing and Emilio Estevez comes to the door, keep it bolted.
If you live in a gated community and Emilio Estevez comes to your door, don't let him in.
What has Emilio Estevez been up to for the last?
Well, I hate to break it to you,
25-ish.
But the last time I heard he was doing anything, he got fired from the Mighty Ducks TV show because he didn't want to do COVID protocols. So
that kind of tracks.
Perfect.
He directed a few things. Like he directed that Bobby Kennedy assassination movie that was like the cheap Robert Altman ripoff.
Yeah. Okay.
He did that movie with his dad, The Camino, about
that's right,
him walking.
He was a legitimate rising star at one point. He was like
Young Guns.
Yeah, Young. Again, talking about a movie that was always on TV. But he came out of that like little outsiders group there, and then he Men at Work is the whole thing, and then
which we've done for the pod.
Yeah, Repo Man's fantastic. But and then he just kind of Emilio'd out. So
the late 90s weren't kind to Emilio Estevez.
Well, I'm not sure any of the 90s were. I mean, if we're being legit, 1990 was kind of like the Boogie Nights 1980 cut. Like once he hit 1990, it was all downhill.
I think this might have been the peak. This $4 million he got to be the last minute star of this movie might have been this is where the behind the music turns, like is right after. But then Judgment Night comes out and doesn't do well. And then that's just
horrifically flops, which I found a little surprising.
Yeah. Again, as a movie I've seen so many times. And also like when you're a kid, movies are just movies. Mm-hmm. Like you don't think like there are good movies and bad movies and some do well and some don't. Just all movies are movies. And I'm 11. So great. This is a movie. Yeah. I actually distinctly remember the first movie I ever didn't like. And I realized the movie could be bad, and it was Angels in the Outfield.
Ooh. Yeah.
Mine was Neverending Story 2.
Ah, nice. Because I was sitting there and I was like, I like movies and I like baseball, but I don't like any of this. This is not working for me. And that was my first foray. But again, Judgment Night between wiffle ball and swimming, maybe eating a hot dog. Let's go.
Well,
this is a perfect bologna sandwich and barbecue potato chips movie.
For sure.
It is it's a funny thing of it's almost like the It's a Wonderful Life thing that you have in a microcosm as a kid, where it's like, well, this was always on cable, so you watch it all the time. So you're just like, well, this must have been great. Like people must have loved Judgment Night. Like that must be
right.
It must have been insanely popular in its day. Not just it's on cable because it's cheap because it flopped. Like you never
right.
Yeah.
It was. I read also in my research that it went direct to video in the UK.
Ooh. Oh man.
That's tough. That hurts the worldwide.
Yeah. Worldwide bottom line was not where it needed to be for this one.
They should have moneyballed it, and instead of getting one Emilio Estevez for $4 million, gotten five Stephen Dorffs.
It would have been fun if it was like a party bus and there were like 8 of them instead of 4, and we really did just end up like
and just picked a bunch off until it got down to Dorff, Cuba, and Emilio.
Yeah, I think I would have enjoyed.
You could have gotten there for sure.
There should have been a red shirt that died immediately. Let's be honest here.
Or like George Wendt. I don't see any reason why George Wendt couldn't have been on that bus in 1993.
I mean, he's in that Piven category of I don't know how old he was in 1993, so he might have been age appropriate.
He's Piven's buddy from the firm. No problem. Like, throw him in there. George Wendt.
That's the wild thing when you see that is a wild thing, now that we are, men in our late 30s, early 40s, around that period. When you see that old ass Cliff Clavin was supposed to be 34. And you're just like,
oh, yeah.
I don't like that at all.
There's an account that posts pictures of baseball players from the 50s that look like they're, made out of rock and, and are this man was 31 years old.
Just carved out of boot leather.
Right. They look like Civil War generals. It's like this guy was 31.
Those are, there's some rough miles. I mean, Y.A. Tittle, just always looked 60.
So we could put Wentz on the bus. I'm trying to think of who else we could populate the bus with. I mean, if Everlast gets to me in the movie, why not Be Real from Cypress Hill? Could always go back to the Who's the Man casting agency.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned the Who's the Man connection yet with this movie.
Denis Leary stopped being a cop and moved to Chicago and became a gang leader.
Criminal. This is set in the Who's the Man universe.
Who's the Maniverse?
Well, there's a logical chain because my first one I did was Blue Chips, and then Penny Hardaway shows up in Who's the Man, and then Leary's there, and then Leary shows up in Judgment Night. So if I'm asked back next year, we need to have something with someone from Judgment Night in it.
Well, I mean, is there any bad movies that Cuba Gooding Jr. did after this? Are we going to be able to find anything?
Has Stephen Dorff done any stinkers? I don't think so.
Jeremy Piven for sure has not.
Everything is the goods live hard, sell hard was note perfect.
And Emilio, it's been, just all the way up.
Yeah.
Will his star ever fall? Yeah,
it's just banger after banger after banger.
He's still living off that Judgment Night money.
Oh yeah. That $4 million is stretched a long time.
That
didn't go up his nose.
Maybe he's like Jason Tatum and he doesn't use any of his salary. He only uses his endorsement money.
I like that that's your reference point and not Jay Leno, who that was his never spent the Tonight Show money. But yeah.
Right. Which you can probably spend it now, Jay. You don't have that much longer, I don't think. But not that I'm wishing ill upon Jay Leno.
Yeah, what do you know? Have you heard something?
It's going to be real weird if he passes away between recording and airing of this episode.
Right. I know the future.
Or the day this goes up. What if it was we post this and then hours later it's announced?
Now I'm afraid. Although Letterman,
what power do you have?
I might get a dap up from Letterman. Who knows?
What power do you have, and how did you set that car on fire in his shop?
The funny part is he didn't notice.
Noted. I want to find now you got to find the connection. I got to find Emilio on Jay Leno footage somewhere. It had to have happened, right?
Oh, I'm sure he did an episode of The Tonight Show. Had to have.
Yeah, had to have. I'm sure Piven and Cuba did too. Dorff, maybe not.
I don't know. Dorff, maybe for Blade.
Maybe. Blade was
a big deal.
That's true. The Dorff man.
Actually, no. Snipes probably did Late Show and then Tonight Show, and then Dorff did Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Oh yeah, probably.
That's probably how it went down.
We could look it up, I'm sure, but no one needs to.
Chris Christopherson just showed up
and said, "Catch you fuckers at a bad time." Obviously,
That's how he walks into every room. Fun fact.
That's how I would if I were him. Also,
if I was Chris Christopherson, yeah.
If Dorff did Conan O'Brien, there is zero chance that segment is watchable. Like, that is just 5 awkward minutes of dead air, pretty much.
Oh, you're Stephen Dorff, huh? Nah, it's... Yeah, I don't know. I wonder what Stephen Dorff is up to right now.
Yeah, what happened to his career?
Vaping.
I feel like but no,
I bet he's... How much is Stephen Dorff on Cameo, do we think?
Oh, do you think he is? Oh.
I would imagine.
I'm sure that Stephen Dorff is on Cameo. I'm going to say $75.
Do you think so?
I think he's...
That's my guess.
I respect him enough to say he's going 100. He's got he might not be getting a lot of them, but he's not going less than 100.
If it's under 50, you guys have a new intro coming. Let me tell you.
What's the cap? What is the cap that any of us would spend on the Stephen Dorff cameo?
I think on a when my expense check from work just hit, like $50 probably.
That sounds right. Yeah. Also, like, they can't be good either. I don't know why. I'm not trying to pick on Dorff, but I'm like, if he is on Cameo, like, what's he putting into that?
The only cameo I've ever ordered was for my buddy, and it was Philadelphia Phillies 1990s infielder Mickey Morandini.
Well,
it was like $30. It was great.
Well,
we purchased the best cameo ever.
I was literally about to tee you up for that. Yeah. No, Andy, please tell him the story of the greatest cameo that you ever got.
So Joel does another podcast where every year we have like a pop culture debate where we decide like the best whatever, right? This time we did who was the best, like the best movie asshole, and we decided it was Clancy Brown.
I gave some feedback on the internets. My guy McGinley got robbed, but I'm with Clancy Brown. I'm on board for Clancy Brown.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no wrong answers. So one year we did this was an endurance trial to say the least, but we did the best TV theme song.
Oh, nice.
And one of the guys that we recorded with, Jonathan Monroe, kept talking about Bowling for Soup's cover of the Gilligan's Island theme.
Okay.
And
unprompted, like for no reason. Yeah.
Apropos of nothing.
Would bring it back up later.
Yeah. And he was also championing the Facts of Life theme as the best theme. And so I bought a cameo of the guitarist for Bowling for Soup to just shit on the Facts of Life theme song and talk about how terrible it was.
That's tremendous.
And he did this. This is a 300-pound bald man with a ZZ Top beard. And he did it wearing a muumuu while drinking tequila with his pug sitting on his belly. It was amazing.
Didn't he have a painting of himself?
Of the pug behind. The painting was behind him of the same thing. Yes.
Yeah. It was like a mirror of the shot was the painting that was over his shoulder. No, it's the greatest cameo that anyone has ever purchased.
You got to picture that dude receiving the request and being like, all right.
Yeah.
He sold it though, man.
Yeah, he really did.
Oh, it was the best $10 I've ever spent.
That sounds it.
And then that guy got to go bowling for soup that night. So he could afford the lane.
He returned some with some soup.
Yeah. To get us back on track.
To get us back on track, the one thing that you didn't mention is that Peter Green actually was in the tournament this year as well.
He was. That's right.
One of the assholes. So,
and amazing that Dennis Leary wasn't in the assholes.
Dennis Leary, who wrote a song about what an asshole he is. I think he wants it too bad. You know, he was campaigning.
There you go.
And also in his movie roles, he's less of an asshole than I think he is in real life. So there's that.
That's true. And he's also now at an age where he gets like the Amazing Spider-Man Gwen Stacy dad roles too. Like he gets he gets more of those Sandlot roles now that make him
the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've really softened him more recently.
Yeah. After Rescue Me.
So also, Anthony, so what we're doing next is the ref, right? Is that
I'd have to.
It fits. Sort of in a way, like to set up the pivot. I want to talk about the soundtrack.
Well, that's where I was going because you brought up Bowling for Soup. That was going to be our into, iconic music.
So probably even more memorable than this movie is the amazing birth of rap rock that was created for the soundtrack. To the point that someone probably called up and said, "Hey, Fred, it's your cousin Marvin Durst. I got that new sound you were looking for."
Very possible. Very possible.
I just remember, well, the soundtrack's amazing, but I just remember those songs being more prevalent. And then to watch it back in the movie, it's just like a couple of like diegetic scenes. And then it's the generic Alan Silvestri's most generic score ever.
Which, in defense of my man Alan Silvestri, who I love, I did read
he's great.
That he wrote a completely different like electronic score. And then they were like, no, we want you to do what you did with Predator 2, which he had also done, which,
Yeah.
And then he just took the stuff that he didn't use for Predator 2 and was like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Give me my check. Yeah.
Just moved a note in every couple of measures.
Yeah, 100%. He wrote like more of an electronic, like probably like a Terminator.
Like a Tangerine Dream and Thief kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. But like, I'd love to hear that because that was probably great. So I just want to defend Silvestri, who I think is one of the best to do it.
And it's good. Like, had you not brought that up, I would have. But like, this is Alan Silvestri did this score in 7 minutes.
I'm also upset he got left off the soundtrack album with the song he did with Q-Tip.
That's a crime.
Alan Silvestri and Q-Tip.
Featuring Fife Didog.
I wish. And Jerobi.
Which a lot of people don't know eventually became the Avengers theme. He just repurposed it.
Speaking of the Avengers,
Q-Tip to rap over that.
Speaking of the Avengers, I mean, you got together Teenage Fan Club, Cypress Hill, fucking Booyah Tribe. I mean, that's basically the Avengers of the music world.
I know. You got Helmet.
I love Helmet.
I also love Helmet.
I do think we also have to talk about the fact that apparently Tool and Rage Against the Machine teamed up to write a song that it was called like Revolution or You Can't Kill the Revolution or something to that effect that they disliked so much.
I've heard the song. It's unlistenable.
No, I legit found it because I was going to play it. I was like, that'll be a fun thing. And I hated it so much that I was like, I can't do that to our audience.
Yeah. An unfortunate, I don't know, per consequence of having XM radio is that Tom Morello is just basically all of Sirius XM at this point. So he'll just play his shit.
It is.
Why not?
It sounds like an AI wrote a Rage Against the Machine song because the hook is something like you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution, which definitely sounds like what AI thinks a Rage Against the Machine song is.
But they didn't move the bodies. No, it's first of all, I will never listen to that because I adore Rage Against the Machine and Tool. So I'm going to stay away from that. But yeah, no, this was, I mean, way more people knew the Judgment Night soundtrack than No Judgment Night. And
the Judgment Night soundtrack was played in more 1994 high school football locker rooms than ever anybody saw this movie.
Well, let me tell you, circa the year 2000, there's a thin layer of snow on the ground outside. We cut to the Nipmuc Regional High School gym as the Fighting Warriors come out the door to Judgment Night, Biohazard, and Onyx.
Nice.
And
perfect.
12 6-foot white kids slap the glass backboard and don't get anywhere near the rim. It was definitely on our warm-up tape.
That's what that song was designed for.
I also
love the record.
I was just going to say, I love the fact that now anything we do Silver Linings wise is just icing because we've done it. Like that, like we can just coast.
Silver Lining, the soundtrack. And like, $4 million for Emilio.
Yeah, Emilio getting $4 million and then Helmet and House of Pain on a track together.
Right. I mean, Everlast doing double duty here.
Yeah, acting. He's a triple threat.
That's a question. Do you think, how close do you, I mean, he didn't make, there's no way with residuals he got like 4 million, but he probably did all right if you count soundtrack residuals as well. Like in the long game, did Everlast make out better than Emilio? He's probably still getting
I'm going to
checks.
say no, but it's probably a good amount of money.
Yeah.
because that's when people still got paid for things.
This soundtrack is ridiculous. That you have the pair ups are Helmet and House of Pain, Teenage Fan Club, and De La Soul, Living Color, and Run DMC.
4 times, by the way.
Yes, they do. Biohazard and Onyx, as we mentioned, Slayer and Ice-T. Faith No More and the Booyah Tribe doing Another Body Murdered, my personal favorite from the soundtrack.
That's
right
just
up there. Playing in an apartment in one scene when they're like trying to use the phone in the.
It's actually building. Mike Patton's apartment.
He's like,
I'm working on the new bungle. Get out of here.
Mudhoney and Sir Mix-a-Lot. Dinosaur Jr. and Del the Funky Homo Sapien, and then Pearl Jam and Cypress Hill.
That's the best hang.
Yeah.
Is Dinosaur Jr. and Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Yeah.
And then my favorite reference point too is a few years after this, they ran this concept back with the Spawn soundtrack when they did all the rock groups and techno things, and it was gonna do the same for that it did for rap rock, and it didn't at all. But I think Filter and the Crystal Method had a single off it though.
That's Trip Like I Do, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the one?
And Tom Morello and Prodigy did a tune called One Man Army. That's actually kind of a banger.
That one's actually, it's not bad. I love Tom Morello, but man, his non-rage stuff is the most self-important drivel ever.
Oh, of course. But he rules. So I'm gonna let him
rules.
slide.
He's great. No, I love him. And
I also love that he's in the E Street Band now.
Is he?
Yeah, that makes.
Yeah, for like the last decade.
Oh wow! I don't even think I knew that. That's how little I've
insane.
Been. Wow.
I mean, there's 37 people on stage of the E Street Band, but it was Steven Van Zandt was doing that TV show Lilyhammer. Do you remember anything about that?
I remember that was a TV show.
Yeah, he missed a tour, and Bruce called up Tom Morello and was like, "Do you want to be in the E Street Band?" And some reporter asked him some stupid question about like, did you ever think this would happen? And he was like, did I ever think that Steve Van Zandt would be doing a television show that's mostly on computers and I would end up in the E Street Band? No, I did not think that would happen. But it's pretty great. He can obviously play.
Yeah.
I also this gave me a flashback to the time I was in a cab in New York with my wife and our friend Kim, that Andy, you also know, when we were heading to an improv show that you were going to be at. And Steven Van Zandt was right next to our cab that was stopped at a light. And I was like, oh my God, it's Steven Van Zandt. And blank stares from both of them. No clue who he was. And I was like, they're like, I don't know. Is that? And he like looked like a poster of Steven Van Zandt, like exactly how you would imagine he was dressed in that moment. Had the giant
bandana, all of it.
Like, and he was getting into his car, like he almost pressed against our cab at the like stoplight. And I was
like, Miami Steve, Sun City.
Like, I was so excited and nobody else cared. And so, yeah. Anyway, that's my Steven Van Zandt story, but I did not know. I somehow missed this Tom Morello news. So this is exciting.
They actually do a really good Clash cover, believe it or not, of Clampdown. It's awesome. But apropos of nothing. Not on the Judgment Night soundtrack, but
no. But just musical collaborations that were invented with the Judgment Night soundtrack that never happened before. The first one.
Yep, I give the credit squarely to the Booyah Tribe.
It does, like, I do wish, it makes me wish that this movie had just given up on any Alan Silvestri soundtrack and just did diegetic music or just did this soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like, just to
why
sell,
not?
yeah, why do you need a classical score to sell this? Like,
right, why do you need the orchestral stuff when you had the Booyah Tribe right there?
Yeah, just needle drop it all, just Dazed and Confused, but this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Booyah Tribe, easily one of the top 3 Samoan rap groups of all time.
I would agree. I don't think they're 3.
They're not 2 or 3.
I mean, look, I said it before, I teed it up before, but as much as it might be a ripoff of Die Hard, the rooftop scene is the best scene in the movie. I think that scene is a silver lining for me.
Yeah, I would agree.
Piven's at the most he can possibly Piven.
Yeah,
and him bouncing off Denis Leary is just phenomenal.
But I think even before that, like when they're the setup, the set piece of we have to get to this rooftop across and we have to climb across this ladder. And there's the ticking clock of Denis Leary and his gang is going to find us. And then Piven cowering and giving up And then like, because it's kind of interesting. I feel like even as a kid, I kind of knew he wasn't getting out of there. Like it just has that vibe to it of like, I'm going to talk my way out of it. And you just kind of know.
Well, you know that he's not. And it's like, even when Denis Leary's like, you can tell that Denis Leary's faking like he's going to like accept it. And it's great.
Yeah. Cause
it's also like, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Denis Leary's got him. Like I can kill you at any moment. So I'm just going to let you talk and just see where you go with it.
For my own entertainment. Yeah.
I think a better ending would have been the movie ends with Jeremy Piven giving Denis Leary a cashier's check for $200,000. And then Emilio Estevez has to go home to his wife and baby.
I mean, the real shame of Piven not living is that we never get to see the scene at the RV dealership play out.
Yeah, you know who gets fucked in this movie? The RV dealer.
Yeah, that guy made a huge mistake in the, I'm just going to let this guy take this for the weekend.
Yeah, he's got a broken RV sitting in Cabrini Green. He's got to figure out how to get that home. He's got to figure out what the insurance ramifications of this are. It's now a crime scene. Like, what are we doing here?
I do want to talk about the RV crash a little bit. Like that was some editing magic because it gets T-boned by like a Crown Victoria and then somehow perfectly spins right inside of an alley that's just wide enough for it to fit without any wiggle room.
A notoriously RV-sized alley on the south side of Chicago.
Okay, we'll accept it. But no, that rooftop scene is great. And I love that like it shows the dynamic shows just how little Denis Leary cares for like his goons. Cause he tells like Everlast, like, oh, go check, knowing full well that Cuba's got him, like got a gun aimed right at the wall they're hiding behind. And he just laughs. It's great.
Yeah. Interchangeable thugs. Here's a question. We've all lived in and around major cities. They are presumably natives of this area. Is there any exit off a major highway heading into the major city that you frequent that you would immediately be completely lost, like beyond all reputable help? Like, it seems like they get real lost real quick for being from there.
Well, it is weird that there's seem to be in traffic to the event, so it's like, that seems like that has to be what the traffic is, right? Because it's night and it's going into the city. So this is not like commuter traffic. So like, yeah, you're pointed in the right direction. You take an exit and then immediately it's like tumbleweeds and none of them know where they are. Yeah, that does feel. But then you also kind of get into that where so much of this movie being a 1993 movie, it's like GPS and cell phones immediately change the calculus.
One iPhone in this movie doesn't happen. Right.
Solves this movie immediately.
One iPhone, movie's over. Like,
and they also don't have the RV. They just Uber to the event.
Right. But the Uber driver shows up in an RV.
And then the Uber driver hits a guy. And
it's Michael DiLorenzo. And then the movie happens as it was.
Uber driver George Wendt.
Yes, there it is. We did it.
Perfect. Judgment Wendt.
Judge Wendt night.
Better. Well done. So you guys are the pros.
I think we did it.
Sorry, my head was just thinking George Wendt night. That's all.
That's also good.
George Wendt night.
Yeah,
that's solid.
My buddy Tom, who actually Andy met a million years ago as a member of the band Shinebox Weekend, but Tom and I used to pitch things to each other, and one of them was the show was called Time Traveling George Wendt. That was the name of the show.
I like it.
And it would be George Wendt shows up to significant events in world history and then just kind of stands around and then goes back.
I'm here for it.
If this was Shark Tank, I would have already made an offer. Like, I'm in. I feel
like Wendt is available. I don't know. He's got to be available.
Yeah,
he'd do it.
What else is he doing? He's not. He can't be doing it. Like, do you think he goes into bars and sits at the bar now, like as like a treat?
If he doesn't, he should. I would.
He should really do it in Boston every now and again.
He could go to Cheers. They have that Cheers. Yeah.
So the college I work at is a block and a half from the exterior of Cheers.
Yeah.
So, and they've kind of now made the inside like kind of look like it. but it was the exterior that they used for, here's a film before live shooting on it. It was a block and a half from my office. So I'm always disappointed that like Harry Anderson isn't running a con anywhere near me.
I don't think he's still with us. Yeah.
No, unfortunately, no longer. But if he were.
My mother-in-law worked like right above Tom's Restaurant, the exterior for the Seinfeld diner.
Oh, that's amazing.
I can relate. The interior looks nothing alike, but I can definitely relate.
West Side, right? Where is
it's
that?
Upper West Side in New York City, right near Columbia University. Yeah.
I know I've rode past it as a child, and my parents were like, "Hey, it's a Seinfeld restaurant." But
also, and then this is the only other fun fact about that place. It's also the Tom's Diner in the Suzanne Vega song.
Oh, nice. That's cool. I did not know that.
Same place.
Not my town, but the next town over from where I grew up. They shot a bunch of the exterior pickups for a civil action of the Mills.
And that ties it back to Travolta.
Right.
Who almost starred in Judgment Night.
Which would be the second darkest, well, maybe, of his career behind Saturday Night Fever, which is the darkest movie of all time.
Well, I think on that note, I think we did it. And let's just say, is there anything you would like to point people towards, make them aware of? I know your season kind of just ended, so I don't know if there's anything you want to promote.
Hey, man, yeah. So, yeah, we once again have improved from the last time I was here to this one. The Fisher Falcons, everybody's favorite small college basketball team, went 18-10 and led the nation in scoring.
That's awesome.
96.8 points per game. We were in the low 200s in defense, but that doesn't matter. There's many ways to win. But no, guys, I mean, Fisher basketball notwithstanding, it's one of the highlights of my year to come here and discuss these great moments in cinema. And, if Denis Leary's involved, all the better.
Denis walking, Denis talking, Denis on top of the Empire State Building with a box of Eskimo pies.
Denis throwing Piven off a roof, it's all the hits right there. But, I think, next time we should probably record in an RV on the way to a sporting event. And we just got to draft a Dorff and we'll be good to go. We could probably get Steven Dorff.
Well, okay, we're all going on Cameo. We're going to hire Steven Dorff, become best friends with them. And this time next year, we're all...
Do we make him read for it, or do you think he's offer only?
Out of respect, he's got the part. I wouldn't make it. I mean, he might.
Do you want to play Steven Dorff?
We might need to camera test him. Just like a chemistry read.
Let's make sure, right?
It's got to make sure.
In a loose remake of Judgment Night, called Judge Went Night.
George Went Night.
George Went Night.
Yeah,
and he's playing the Leary role.
Obviously,
it's a reboot. And George Wentz is the heavy, and
Everlast plays the exact same part.
Everlast, plays. He's timeless and ageless.
Because we find out that he didn't die in this; that he actually lived.
And he signed on with the George Wendt operation, who rose to take over the rackets. Like an LA Confidential situation.
That's actually our opening scene is the end of this movie. And then you see they have the body bag. They're zipping it up you just see the ring with the clover and then the hand twitches. And then it's like, then it's just 30 years later. We just pick up.
And it's a long exposition scene of him and George Wendt riding in a car. And they explain everything that's happened.
And then it's obviously 10 minutes of shots of the suburbs that we will not be spending a lot of time
in. What is Stephen Hopkins up to? What is he doing?
Still he directs a lot of TV now.
Nice. So I need him to write a novel, much like Michael Mann just did, Heat 2, which is insane, by the way. I read the entire thing. It's batshit crazy. But I would like Stephen Hopkins to write Judgment Night 2. And much like Heat 2, it takes place before and after the events of Judgment Night. Perfect. And we really just, and then we can get into the George Wendt stuff in the after.
Oh man, now I have pitches on Judgment Night too, because now I'm thinking the kid that was in
the swing kid?
Yeah, well, the swing kid, but I was thinking the kid that's in the apartment that they use the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have to find out what happened to both of them now that they're adults.
Can I
They're part of the
mention?
Went gang.
Yeah, they're Went unit. George Went unit. But I think maybe the best performance in the movie, and I'm not being a jerk right now, the kid that goes head to head with Leary in the neighborhood.
No, I agree.
That kid's great.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him, but he's awesome.
No, and that's like the best world building in the movie. Like it made the city feel richer and more lived in, that and also more like the Warriors, and that now we're on someone else's turf. So yeah,
Right.
that part was great. No, I love that.
Oh man. All right. I got some work to do on this pitch, but George Went Night for sure.
Also in George Went Night too, I definitely feel like Emilio should be divorced, and part of it should be him trying to bring his daughter along. To reconnect.
He's bringing his daughter to see Taylor Swift, and he rents an RV.
Amazing. Yes.
There
Yeah,
it is.
100%.
And it's Emilio Estevez and 7 19-year-old girls.
Oh my God. And here's the twist. Emilio dies immediately. Like he's shot in Act 1. It's just like Mission Impossible. Like we think we're setting up a big Emilio like starring turn, and then an elevator kills him again. And
he gets Drew Barrymore. Perfect.
This has to happen now. Like
George Went Night. I don't know. We gotta get it on this. We might have to delete this part.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I'm sending it directly to Netflix right now as we speak.
I'm mailing.
I think we need to aim at Tubi. I think that's right in our wheelhouse.
That is true.
Yeah.
They already have the first one, so it could just seamlessly, as soon as it ends, go right into Judgment Night 2. I think we could make it for under 10 million.
Four's got to go to Emilio.
4 goes straight to Emilio for his 10 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, that'll mislead everybody. All right. So I also like to say, as I said, this is one of the highlights of my year. It's also the only time I download Tubi, because the last time I used Tubi was to watch Who's the Man, and the next time was Judgment Night.
It's entirely possible that the last time Andy and I used Tubi was to watch Who's the Man. That might be accurate.
There is also an entire the entire film of Judgment Night is for free on YouTube.
Yeah, because who's enforcing that? No one is doing a cease and desist on Judgment Night.
Do you think Dorff is just like, oh man, I'm getting screwed out of like 9 cents?
That could buy me another vape cartridge.
The sad part is I feel like the sad part is if it did get flagged, it'd be for the music. That's what would actually catch.
Right.
The Booyah Tribe is litigious.
Exactly. They're notoriously litigious.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Dorff, if you're out there,
I believe you know my clients, the Booyah Tribe. I have a notarized letter from both of them, all of them, however many of them there are.
The whole tribe.
Yep, the entire tribe. All right. Well, thank you again, guys. Again, anyone out there, www.fisherfalcons.com. And I'll see you all at the premiere of George Went Night.
Call us George Went.
Please.
Silver Linings Playback is a production of HoboTrashCan.com. If you enjoyed the show, please rate or review it on Apple Podcasts. Hear more great shows on the Peak Sloth Podcast Network.